Chapter 10. Animal Orphans. "This is the Sunrise Police," a voice crackled over the loudspeaker. "Frank Vega speaking." The rancher told of their predicament and their location. "We'll be all right here for the night," he said. "Please tell my wife and the Hollisters where we are, and ask Truchas to come for us tomorrow morning with horses in case we can't taxi the plane out." "Tell Daddy to come too," Sue called. Mr. Vega smiled and delivered this message. The police promised to get in touch with the ranch house. Then Mr. Vega switched off the radio and turned to the children. "How about some chow?" he asked. "If you're as hungry as I am, you could eat a Texas steer." As the others giggled, he said, "Dolores, suppose you play mother tonight. You know where the emergency rations are, don't you?" "Sure, Daddy. I'll fix something right away." As the Hollister children watched, she went to the back of the plane and opened a small compartment. Inside it were many cans of food. "What would you like to have?" Dolores said as she pulled them out. "Chili con carne or baked beans?" Pam said they had tried chili con carne on their way through New Mexico and thought it a bit peppery. "I'll take beans," she said. And the other Hollisters decided on this too. "And canned peaches for dessert?" Dolores asked. "Yummy!" exclaimed Sue. "Let's make a fire to heat the beans, instead of using the canned heat," Diego suggested. "Yes, that will be more fun," his sister agreed. Diego climbed out of the plane. Ricky followed him, and together the boys gathered enough brushwood to start a cheery blaze. Holly found a pan in the compartment and also a can opener. She went outside with Pam, who carried a box of crackers and some tin plates, to the place where the fire was already crackling. Pete had stayed in the plane to speak to Mr. Vega, who was examining the instrument panel. "Is there a railroad nearby?" he asked the rancher. "Yes, there is, not many miles away." "Is there a loading platform on the railroad?" the boy asked. "Yes. Why do you ask?" "I have an idea," Pete said. "Maybe the sheep rustler took them to the railroad and shipped them off. The lamb Holly and Sue found might have escaped while he was doing that." "That's possible," Mr. Vega said. "Very plausible idea. The loading platform is old and not used much. A rustler might easily arrange to have a cattle train stop there without the railroad becoming suspicious." "What place do sheep from here go?" asked Pete. "Kansas City." Before Pete and Mr. Vega could discuss the subject further, Dolores poked her head into the plane. "Supper's ready," she called. "That's good," said Pete. "I'm hungry." At the blazing campfire, beans and chili con carne were steaming in the cans. Diego spooned them onto the plates, and Dolores handed them around. That smells good," Pam said, as she passed crackers. As they all started to eat, Sue wanted to know if there was any milk. "Yes," Dolores replied. "I forgot all about it." She opened several cans and mixed the contents with water. "This is just like cow's milk," Sue stated, and the others laughed, because it was cow's milk. Suddenly, Pam exclaimed, "Oh!" Pete jumped involuntarily. "What's the matter?" he asked. "I just saw the most beautiful meteor flash across the sky," his sister replied. The children looked up into the starlit sky, but the meteor had passed. The heavens, however, were like a sparkling dome, extending from one horizon to the other. "Wow, don't frighten us like that again," Diego chuckled. When the meal was over, the campers continued to sit around the fire and started to sing songs. When they came to Home on the Range, with the words, "Where the deer and the antelope play," Sue began to look around into the darkness. Her head turned this way and that. "What are you looking for?" Dolores asked her. "I want to see the deer and the antelope playing," the little girl explained. The others laughed, and the ranch girl said that the animals were asleep. "And you should be too," Pam told her small sister, as Sue yawned. "Are we going to sleep inside the plane?" Holly asked. "I guess some of us will have to," Mr. Vega replied. "There aren't enough blankets for all of us. Diego and I will stay out here and keep watch. The rest of you go inside." Before long, the younger children were fast asleep, curled up on the chairs. Pete, Pam, and Dolores stretched out on the carpeted floor. In the middle of the night, Pam awakened and sat bolt upright, her eyes wide. Had she heard a noise like a faint cry? She listened as her heart pounded. The sound came again. It was outside the plane. Had something happened to Diego or Mr. Vega? Pam touched her brother's arm. "Pete, wake up." As her brother roused sleepily, she told him her fears. "I think we'd better go outside and investigate," the boy said. Pete still had one of the flashlights with him. He snapped it on and led the way. Diego and his father were sound asleep. "They weren't bothered by the noise," Pam remarked softly. "It must be something that's natural to the range," Pete whispered. "Otherwise it would have disturbed them." "Just the same, I'd like to find out what it was," Pam said. "Listen, there's the cry again." It seemed to come from a distance on the other side of the plane. As Pam moved toward it, Pete held her back. "Be careful," he warned. "It might be Mesquite Mike prowling around and trying to fool us by making a sound like an animal." "You're not going alone," his sister told him as he pushed ahead of her. Together, the children tiptoed to the far side of the plane, Pete flashing the light. In its beam, the pinyon bushes and scrubby cedars cast long, spooky shadows, but nobody was in sight. "Maybe someone's hiding behind the bushes," Pete suggested. "Let's find out." Walking softly, he focused the light among the pinyons, and also behind several large boulders which lay nearby. All at once, the children heard the whimpering cry again. "Now I know where it's coming from," Pete exclaimed. "I do too," said Pam. "The place where the lamb is tied." "That's why the Vegas didn't bother about it," Pete whispered. "But maybe somebody's trying to steal the lamb again," Pam worried. Cautiously, she approached the spot where the lamb was tied to the stake, while Pete flashed his light around. The beam found the white lamb, who lay huddled on the ground, but it also picked up another animal. Pam uttered a cry before she realized what it was. Then the girl and her brother burst out laughing. "It's a lost dogie," Pam exclaimed, licking the lamb's face and trying to cuddle down with it. The laughter and talking awakened Mr. Vega and Diego, who came running to the spot. When they were sure the children were all right, the father and son gazed at the little scene and chuckled. "Just a couple of orphans," Diego said. The children walked forward, and this time the dogie did not run away. Nevertheless, they all thought it best to tie the calf. There were no more disturbances the rest of the night. It was not until Sue shouted, "Get up, you sleepyheads!" that they realized it was morning. "Oh, look, it's Monday!" cried the little girl, who was looking out a window of the plane. Pam turned drowsily. Sue, she thought, was always getting her days mixed up. This was not Monday. It was... But suddenly Pam heard the other children exclaiming. She got up and looked out. There was Monday the burro. On his back was Truchas. Following Monday came Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, plodding along in single file. "Hooray, we're rescued!" Ricky shouted, as he scampered out of the plane and ran to meet Truchas.